Let's Take This Outside with Marianne Iveson, the podcast where she speaks to athletes, outdoor professionals, and scientists about why they connect with nature.
Today, I'm joined by Marlis Butcher, environmental conservationist, photographer, and first visitor to visit all 48 of Canada's national parks. So cool. From remote Arctic tundra to rugged coastal wilderness, Marlis has seen it all. She's also the author of the best-selling book, Park Bagger, and her upcoming book, The Lady's Guide to Backpacking, Secrets Men Didn't Tell You and Don't Even Know About. We talk about exploration and what it means to truly connect with Canada's wild places. Please welcome Marlis Butcher. Marlis Butcher, thank you so much for joining me on Let's Take This Outside.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share our national parks and our park experience with you.
I'm very excited about this. When I saw what you've done, I was like, this lady is so cool. But what I've noticed recently is I always ask guests at the end, like, is there anyone that you would recommend? Or if someone might come up in conversation, I'm like, ooh, I want to talk to that person. Nicola Ross, who is from Loops and Lattes, recommended you. And I was like, yes, please connect us. That sounds so cool. How do you know Nicola?
So Nicola and I actually know each other through the Bruce Trail. She's written a lot of her books about hiking on the Bruce Trail. And I was on the board of directors of the Bruce Trail, and I was the trail development and maintenance director of the Bruce Trail. So our paths have crossed a few times, literally.
That's actually so cute. I've never heard that before. That's so funny. Where did you grow up? Because I know you're in Burlington now. Where did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up just outside of Montreal and started my hiking and outdoor experience with the Girl Guides.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm going to ask you more about that, but I quickly want to mention, so I'm from Southern Ontario near like Windsor area, and my family and I would go up to like Tobermory a couple times, and I've come back as an adult. And I would say like the Bruce Peninsula is maybe my favorite part of Ontario in terms of like exploring and just how beautiful it is.
Ah, yes. Well, I would throw in most of our like Southern Ontario, Quebec, our forests, I always refer to them as friendly forests because there's nothing in there that's really a threat to human beings. It's comforting, the tree coverage and the flora. It's just, comforting.
Yeah, and there's never like a crazy elevation gain, right? No. There's never anything that's going to necessarily put you in danger.
Well, I suppose if you want to climb up the Niagara Escarpment, you might have a bit of a gain, but yes.
Okay, so you grew up just outside of Montreal. I'm in Ottawa. Can you tell me more, like kind of specifically where you grew up? Because, you know, nature up here is kind of similar to Montreal. So
so I grew up in Chomedey-Laval and so tended to explore into the Laurentians a lot and sometimes into the eastern townships. And of course, getting over to Ottawa. And like Ottawa, also gateway from the east side into Algonquin Park, right?
I have to say, I've been to Sutton, which is in the eastern townships, beautiful part of Quebec. Adirondacks, I've been a ton. I'm probably not going anytime soon to the US, but the Adirondacks is like my favorite playground. I'm assuming that you would go there growing up maybe, or you've been there?
Yes, especially entering via Lake Champlain, that direction, and then into the Adirondacks. But talk about elevation gain. There you're going to get your elevation gain in those mountains. Yes.
I know. Okay, so you grew up and you said Girl Guides was where your love of nature and exploring began. Shockingly, that doesn't come up a lot on this podcast. Tell me more about your Girl Guides experience.
I always loved the outdoors. I wanted to be outside. And the Girl Guides and Girl Guide camp, the summer camps, I just lived in the summer camps, like day and night as we were camping in tents. And that's how I spent my summers. And I kept doing more and more courses on wilderness survival and learning more about woodcraft, outdoor techniques, and that type of thing. One of the things in my background, I always thought was aware Canada is a huge country and there's a lot of wilderness. And I always expected that one day I will likely get lost. And not that I was afraid of it, more that I wanted to be prepared for that eventuality. And that's why I was taking more and more of these survival courses, wilderness courses, woodcraft, campcraft courses. And that just attracted me and was so super interesting to me.
I was going to say, what part of Girl Guides was really like that you really gravitated towards?
Oh, the camping. Most definitely. Camping, canoeing. We learned to canoe there. And of course, at that time, we were all taught only fools shoot the rapids. So we always portaged around the rapids. Later on, as an adult here in Southern Ontario, I tested the waters, the whitewater, and got hooked on the adrenaline rush of whitewater canoeing. So, yeah.
Have you met Adam Schultz yet, by the way?
Oh, yes. Adam and I are friends. We know each other through the Explorers Club and the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. Yes, indeed. And I have consulted with him on occasion when I want to go to some of the national parks in the region where he's traveling through. So I will sometimes consult him if he's in that area more or less the same time as me. Okay, so what is the grizzly bear situation like this year? Is it a wet year? Is it a dry year? To share some knowledge. So, yeah.
What a cool resource. And Adam Schultz, by the way, he was one of my first guests. I've interviewed him twice. He's one of the coolest explorers in Canada. I actually met him in person at the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, which is kind of in my neighborhood. So what a cool, unique human being. I'm so glad that you're friends. I can see why you're friends.
Oh, yeah. Our paths cross quite a bit. And we share information and knowledge. And by the way, just an aside, if you're, in Ottawa, GLEX, the Global Exploration Summit, is happening in Ottawa in September.
Oh, really? Are you going?
Yes.
Okay, GLEX, Global
Exploration Summit, GLEX, okay. Global Exploration Summit. And Adam is going to be one of the guest speakers on that, in that event, and I'll be up there, and as will a lot of Canadian explorers.
Okay, can we chat about this afterwards?
Yes.
After I stop. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that was a total aside. Sorry.
No, here's the thing, though, is that my podcast listeners might be like, oh, how do I get into that? So the reason that really caught my eye with you is you were the first visitor to have visited all 48 Canadian national parks. I didn't know anyone had actually done this. And when you say visitor versus you mean an employee of Parks Canada, is that what you mean? Correct. Because I have no idea if any employee has done work in every one of the parks. Usually they work in one area or another. So I can't speak to employees and workers. But as a visitor, I'm the only one who's done it. And the reason why it's so unique and so challenging to do is because, of course, a third of our parks do not have road access. A third?
A third of our parks don't have road access. But then consider, that's very, very Canadian. When you consider, first of all, you can't even drive to Nunavut. And then we have so many cities, towns, communities all over Canada that you cannot drive to. They don't have road access. So, it's very Canadian to not be able to drive somewhere.
I'm going to ask you more about that in a second, but I want to know you love nature, you love camping, you have the wilderness survival, you're the perfect person to do this. What sparked this ambitious journey? Do you remember the moment or how it kind of developed?
Like I said, I have always been interested in the outdoors. And I think what happened was the more I did, the more I wanted to do. My skill level, of course, increased, my knowledge increased, and that led me to doing more and more. As my husband says, okay, you've really gone out there now. This is not in the realm of what normal people do anymore. And I didn't even realize that was happening. It just evolved that way. The more I did, the more I wanted to do. So that's how it developed. That's how it evolved. Of course, seeing the parks, to see all the national parks, I would always, I was doing this during my vacations. I wanted to see my country, get to know my country, and that led me to seeing the provinces. And when I was in the provinces, I also wanted to see the national parks that were there. And I'd always come back from my vacations and at work, and people would ask me, so what did you see? What did you do? And at one point, I was like, well, how many parks have you actually been to? And I counted them, never paid attention to this before. I counted them up and it's like, I've been to over half of them. Now, this is many years ago already, right?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Because they keep adding parks. But when I realized that I've been to over half of them, now I got to go and see them all.
Might as well finish it at this point.
Little did I know how challenging some of that would be, right?
Marlis, from the time, I don't know if you have an exact number on this, from the time you visited your first national park to the time you visited the last one, how many years, what span of years is that? You're in probably half your life, at least Yeah, your lifetime, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's most of my life. I mean, the first parks was as a child with my parents, right?
What was it? Which one was it?
So St. Lawrence Thousand Islands National Park, family camping there. So that would have been the first park that I went to. It was with a family. And that just continues. The last park I went to now was the newest national park, Pitumek. And I'm pronouncing that wrong. I apologize. In PEI, Hog Islands. It's the Malpeque Bay Barrier Islands. And they've now been protected into national park. And I was there 2 years ago. I kayaked over there. Again, a park with no road access.
Well, okay, so what would you say, like, tell me the top, like, one or two most challenging parks to reach, and how did you prepare for them? I'm assuming one of them was probably in the Arctic at least.
Oh, yes. So one of the hardest ones to get to would have been Vuntut or Vuntut. It's near the top of the Yukon Territories. There really is no way into that park. There's no road access. There's no landing strips for planes. There's no larger waterways or water systems in there. It's very swampy. The south part of it is all swampy. And so getting in there, I ended up chartering a helicopter and landing on the edge of the park and backpacking in. So that was one of the toughest ones to get to. Tuktoq Nogay in the top of the Northwest Territories is also another one of those really challenging places to get into. Very few visitors go in there. Like all national parks, it's a park you're allowed in. The challenge is how to get in there. Yeah, so those would be two of the most challenging. I would throw in a third one, and this is not so much challenging to, well, in a way it is Sable Island off the coast of Nova Scotia. You're not allowed to stay on the island. Nobody's allowed to stay on that island. It's just a sand spit of an island. It has feral horses on it that date back 250 years. And the only way there is by boat or by plane, and meaning small plane, right? And yeah, you're not allowed to stay on that island. You can just go and visit for a day. And the way I did it was on a small ship, and we were anchored just outside, we stopped around the outside of the island and did daily trips onto the island.
Let's take this outside with Marianne Iveson. Let's Take This Outside now has a newsletter. Keep up to date with outdoor news, events, and great discount codes and deals from our partners. Sign up today at letstakethisoutside.ca.
Can I ask, what was the most, do you remember the most expensive one? What kind of cost the most resources?
Yeah, that would have been Vuntut going in with a helicopter. I mean, if you ever told me I'm going to charter a helicopter, it's like, really? This is not in my world. It's like, so I had to save up for that one and scrimp and scrunch and sacrifice other, like regular vacations are not in my world, because I'm saving up for these type of things. So any place where you have to take a small plane in or a helicopter in, yeah, those things become seriously expensive.
What park surprised you the most, either in beauty, remoteness, or the experience that you had there?
I am going to say Ayuituk National Park on Baffin Island.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. The mountains, it's gorgeous. And the glaciers in between them. There is a hiking trail, a backpacking trail. You can go in for a day or in and out for a day. Or as we did, we had a small plane to take us in just outside the park. And we backpacked for 2 weeks through the park to get back out to where a fishing boat could pick us up. But the mountains are phenomenal. Nobody thinks of, I shouldn't say nobody, very few people think of rugged mountains and glaciers in Eastern Canada, the Eastern Arctic. The further west you go in the Arctic, the flatter it becomes. But the Eastern Arctic, those mountains are amazing. And of course, you have muskox in there and Arctic fox. You do have to be careful with polar bears when you're on the coast.
Yeah, polar bears. Yeah, of
so,
course.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like, I couldn't even name, probably at least half of them, right? Everyone's heard of Banff. Everyone's heard of Jasper. One that that's kind of piqued my interest recently is the Torngat Mountains, is the Torngat National Park.
Gorgeous.
It's cool. It's
gorgeous.
Cool, right?
Yes. So two ways to get there, either by ship, and there are a few outfitters and tour organizations that will take you up there by ship, but you can also go in by plane from Newfoundland. There are a few outfitters that will take you in there, and you can camp overnight in the Tornget Mountains. Absolute gorgeous. I would actually suggest, though, going by boat because the fjords. To sail up the fjords in there. If you go in by plane, then you're stuck in one location. It's a huge park, huge mountains, long fjords. It's amazing. And there are polar bears there, so you do need to be careful.
I've heard.
So, which is another reason why it's great to be on a ship, because you can sail alongside up the fjords and look at the polar bears from the side of the ship.
Safely.
And you're safe.
I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but your book, Park Bagger, which is such a cool name, very clever, became a bestseller. How did your writing about your adventures and kind of looking back on it compare to actually living them?
When I was writing the book, I got to relive the adventures. And that's how I look at it. When I travel, I keep a very detailed travel journal. And I document everything, for the mundane, so what the weather was like and what I ate and but also how I felt about things, if I was happy or sad or upset with something, but also what I saw, where I went, what I did, all the highlights. And together with the photographs I take, I was able to go back to my journals and my photo albums, see what I did and relive that experience and then share that. Not in a journal format in the book, but rather in a novel and in a story to make it easier and more interesting for people to read.
As a conservationist and a photographer, how do you balance capturing the moment? You're like, I have to get this shot versus being present in the wilderness.
It is a balance, as you said. It's a balance. I never approach any creature. I let them approach me, sometimes make too close, as I'm backing off. So for instance, the photograph of the muskox on the cover of my book, we were just going for a day hike, and in Aluvat National Park on Banks Island. And we're on our way back to our camp, our day camp, overnight camp. And we're just hiking over this hill, and suddenly a muskox shows up and staring us down from the top of the hill. And so, okay, we're going to back off. And I have the camera around my neck, of course. And it's, and so I keep turning back and clicking another photograph as we are retreating. And our guide, she keeps yelling at me, get out of there, Marlis, you got to hurry up, get out of there. Well, we don't want to run either because we don't want to startle them. So every few steps, I would turn back and take another photograph. And suddenly, there are 7 muskox over the hillside. It's like, oh my gosh, click, click, click. A few more steps, click, click, click. Oh, wow. And it was so exciting. But yes, I was backing off at the time. There are other times, for instance, in Wood Buffalo National Park, where I was taking a photograph of a sinkhole pond, and there was a bison, turned out, was lying on the ground on the other side of the tree next to me. And it stood up, and we looked at each other around the tree, and okay, I'm backing off. I'm not taking photographs anymore. I am backing off from this thing. I shouldn't be here. And fortunately, it turned around and went barreling through the forest away from me. Yeah, but then I retreated. I respected the land, the area, the animals. Mm-hmm. This is their area. This is their home, not mine.
I feel like there's probably a lot of national parks that get a handful of visitors a year, probably, especially the remote ones.
Oh, yes. Well, like I mentioned, Tuktoq-No-Gate, it gets maybe 5 visitors in 5 years type thing. Vuntut.
Yeah, so animals aren't used to people.
Other than a few scientists go in there, that's it.
In your experience, because you've been visiting them for years, how have Canada's national parks changed over time? And what concerns or hopes do you have for their future?
Interesting. Well, one of the major obvious things about the parks is the park system, Parks Canada has become more conscientious of working with the Indigenous people who know the land, know the areas. And so they've become much more respectful and working with the Indigenous people of those areas, of each area. But they've also, and they're finding the balance of this, trying to protect more land from industry, mines and minerals, that type of thing, and to preserve a section of each type of natural area in our country for the future. So, of course, it's challenging for them to find and be able to obtain permission from the local community to do this, because there are always such competing interests in our country, right? In the land. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. There's in that respect, a lot has changed with our national parks.
For someone who, just, is inspired by your story, just started to explore Canada's natural spaces, whether they're, just getting into nature, maybe they're an immigrant, which parks or trails would you recommend as a starting point? Maybe not specific ones, but how would you start exploring if you were just getting started?
Start with the parks near you in your province, wherever you live, start there. A day trip with the family. That's how I did it. Day trip with the family. If you can, get into some of the camping in those parks. A lot of the parks also have learn to camp programs to help people learn how to do this. Like if you didn't have the Girl Guide or Boy Scout background that I had to learn how to do it, many of the parks have a program to help you learn to do this. And in their campgrounds, their drive-in campgrounds where you drive with your car and you set up a tent next to your car, they have camp hosts who come around and help you, orient you. And if you need any help in, like, how do I get water and how do I cook a meal, they will give you some hints and pointers to help you out with that.
What gear or habits do you never leave home without when you're heading out to a new park or a backcountry adventure?
Ooh, a headlight. Yeah. Oh, have to have a headlight. And if it's an overnight trip, this is going to sound weird, but even in the middle of summer, like, doesn't matter. I always have a pair of long underwear with me because nights can be suddenly cold where you're not expecting it. Even, say, in Southern Ontario, you get a night that's really chilly. It's nice to have long underwear.
It is. It very much is. Marlis, I'm very excited because, Park Bagger did so well, but tell me about your upcoming book, hopefully coming out in 2026. I love the title. It's called The Lady's Guide to Backpacking, and then Secrets Men Didn't Tell You and Don't Even Know About. I think that's hilarious. Okay, tell me more about this book and where I get, the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I had to learn the hard way how to backpack because pretty much everything documented, written about backpacking, how to backpack, was written by men for men. And it assumed that women either do the same or don't backpack. So I had to learn the hard way. Everything from how to carry the backpack. My first trip was awful. All that weight on my shoulders. And of course, the pack wasn't designed for a woman. It was like a borrowed backpack. Actually, it was a secondhand backpack. I don't know how many hands went through actually before mine. And I had to learn. So for instance, while men have the big, broad shoulders, yes, they can carry the weight on their shoulders. Women don't do that. Our shoulders aren't designed for that. But we have hips designed to carry children and heavy loads. And therefore, I eventually learned tighten the hip belt, get all the weight on my hips, and I can actually put my hand through between the shoulder strap and my shoulder. There's no weight on my shoulders at all. And that's not documented anywhere. Things like that. And then, of course, what do you do when you have your period? You not go?
Oh, right. Yeah. That's not documented. No.
Why? It's like, no, go. I mean, since the beginning of time, women have been in the wilderness and have had their periods, managed them. This new book is to document all of that, how to deal with things that most of it is very specific to women. A lot of it is more general, but it's really designed for questions that women might have or concerns women would have about when they're backpacking, how to do it.
I think that's so needed, and especially in this space. I feel like we have a long way to go. So I think the resources that you're putting out is such a blessing to the outdoor community. So thank you.
You're welcome. If I can make it easier for other women to go into the wilderness, all the better. It's
I agree.
I want to encourage people, all people, men and women, go out, enjoy our wilderness, and enjoy it comfortably and respectfully.
Marlis Butcher, thank you so much for joining me on Let's Take This Outside, and can't wait for your new book to come out.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. For more Let's Take This Outside, go to letstakethisoutside.ca.
Produced and distributed by the Sound Off Media Company.